Hi, my name is Lara. Welcome to my studio. I'm the Art in Public Places program assistant, and today I'll be teaching you how to build a shock art maquette box.
All right, a list of things that you're gonna need. First, a hard edge ruler, then a permanent marker, a box cutter, tape that isn't plastic, straight pins, and finally glue. Let's think about our box. So we're gonna need to build one that's 11 by 10 by 7 1/4. So to build the sides, we're gonna need 4 pieces, 2 that are 11 by 7 1/4 and 2 others that are 10 and 7 1/4. We're gonna hold off on doing the top until we can measure it once we're done with the sides. All right, let's cut our sides. You're gonna see me here using the permanent marker and my ruler to measure out my sides. And I like to use a cutting board to protect the surface. And then I also like to use a box cutter with a fresh blade because using a brand new blade ensures that the cutting will be the easiest. Please be very careful because the blade is very sharp and it is very easy to slip and cut yourself. Some other tips that I have is putting enough pressure to cut through the foam core, but if it takes a few times to get there, that's fine. Just be very careful to use your ruler to keep that straight edge going. All right, so now that we have our sides, I'm gonna take the first 2 sides we're gonna put together, the 10 and 7 1/4 and the 11 and 7 1/4. And then I'm also gonna grab my glue and my straight pins. First things first, just make sure that the sides fit. They do. And then the way that I prefer to join the box is to have alternating corners. So just make sure that you have alternating corners on each corner. And then the side that I'm gonna fit flush to the other piece, I'm gonna put a very, very thin line of glue on that edge. And then I'm gonna put them together and hold them for a bit until the glue is a little bit more set. And then when I'm ready, I will put 2 straight pins in the corners. And the foam core I'm using is about 1/4 inch thick. So when I stick them in, I try to imagine the 1/4 inch and get it right in the middle. No worries though if it's not perfect. We will be taping over the edges after we're done pinning and gluing. So as long as it's not breaking out the sides too bad, you're gonna be fine. The foam core actually is pretty thick and has a lot of give to it, so I was having a little bit of difficulty putting the pins in just with my bare hands. So I started using this glue bottle, but later on you're gonna see me use a flat edge of a ruler to help me just push it in all the way. I'm gonna take some of the little beading of glue off just to clean it so it doesn't get too lumpy. And there we have it. Our first 2 sides are joined. You can see that I have one edge flush to the other edge, and I'm going to try to make every corner completely like that. And I'll show you later with an animation what I mean. All right, now that we have our 2 sides, I'm gonna add a 3rd side, and then that 3rd side's gonna be the 10 by 7 1/4. And I'm just gonna make this a little faster so that we can get through it a little quicker. Same steps as before. Glue, pins, hold. There's the 3rd, and then our last side. Glue, pins, and then glue pins. All right, I'm going to explain a little bit about the joining. So basically, you're gonna alternate which corners get joined where. And you'll see in this little animation, each corner is joined the same way. And then on the opposite side, where the top of the foam core is, you're gonna put the push pins in. so it will reinforce the edges so that your box is really, really sturdy. All right, so now that we have gotten an explanation about how the sides are going to be joined, we're just going to go back in and put some more straight pins in to reinforce the box. Remember, this box will be in public and will be transported from place to place, so the sturdier you have it, the better. Again, you see me here using my ruler to push in the push pins just to save my fingertips. And then what I tried to do was, I already had pins at each the top and the bottom, so I added one pin in the middle and then 2 between that, so about 5 pins per corner. I'm also double checking that each pin has a sharp point to it, because some of the ones I got in the box that I bought were actually flat, which would have made things really hard for me. All right, we're gonna speed it up, go through the whole thing. I'm gonna show you a little bit closer near the end how the corners look with all the 5 straight pins on each corner. All right, there you are. So every corner has about 5 pins, and it should be sufficient enough to keep it pretty sturdy. All right, we're ready to build the top of our box. And the reason why I had you hold off on building the top was to measure the box that you made so that we can make a top that fits exact. So because the foam core is 1/4 inch thick, my top's gonna be 11 1/4 by 10 1/4. So we're gonna cut a new top to that size, and then gonna do glue along the top of our box, and then place our new top on top of that box and let it dry for a bit. Once we place it on top, we're gonna use the straight pins to get the corners, and then also fill in the edges like we did on the corners as well. So again, we have a totally sturdy box. All right, now that you have your full box made and all the glue is dry, we're gonna take our tape. Again, any type of tape will do as long as it's not any type of plastic. And we're gonna go along the edges and just make sure that all the creases and crevices are completely sealed. This is because we're gonna be using gesso to prime the box, which makes for an easier surface to paint on. So the tape is just also protecting the straight pins as well. And then what you can see me doing is I'm just really going back over the tape and burnishing it so that it's as flat as possible. And again, I'm getting all sides of the top, and then I will also be getting all of the corners as well. Ideally, you would have some sort of packing tape or artist tape, but really any sort of like paper tape will do. And then you can also see me here kind of cleaning up my edges a little bit so we don't have any loose or flappy bits at all. All right, looks like we're just making sure all of the tape is flat as possible, and you have your box. All right, our last step is going to be gesso. I like to use a tinted gesso because the gray helps with contrast and color. And then mix it up to make sure that it's a good consistency. And finally, just a crummy brush that you don't care about. You're gonna wanna coat each side as best possible. Gesso is a material that doesn't like to be reworked when wet, so do your best again to get every side as thoroughly painted as possible. Let it dry completely and then come back and do another coat. I recommend at least 3 coats of gesso. You can always do more, but 3 is the bare minimum for, making your surface as paintable as possible. The gesso is also working as kind of a binder for the paint, so again, this is a very important step. One other thing that I wanted to mention is you may find that the tape will buckle and bubble slightly, especially after your first coat of gesso, just because it's reacting to the water. But after it's dry, it should be a lot flatter and a lot less noticeable, especially as you continue putting coats on the box. Lastly, I try to make my brush strokes as random and varied as possible, just to kind of give the surface not a whole lot of distinctive pattern or texture. All right, and then once I'm done, I'm gonna let it dry. And then repeat at least 2 more times.
And now you have your box. Make sure to do at least 3 coats and let it dry in between. After that, you'll be ready to start with your design.